Today you're viewing a tutorial by Cooper Collier with waterswebworks.com. He is lead programmer and has been programming TeamDesk for 9 years. Please visit our TeamDesk expert profile if you're interested in and need any assistance or have any questions, and we'll be happy to help.
We're going to go over columns because columns are the basis for your database, and they're one of the most important things you need to know and understand how to use. I'm going to go using the My Cars database that I'm going to use in many of these beginning classes, and I'm going to go back. If you recall, we have the make, model, and color in one table. When we edit a record, we just have what are called text boxes, and we just type something in. Let's go look at the setup for the text box. In our columns right here, we have these columns, and notice they're kind of in alphabetical order here. That's okay. We want the color one, and let's click edit on this. Now we have several things here that we can do with the column, and there's some really important ones. The name is what's going to show up in the views and the forms. Important thing to know is you cannot change the name in the view. So if you're going to put a column in a view, you cannot change it. When you go to looking at it, which puts you in a form, we will be able to change the name. So the form doesn't have to reflect the name, but the view does. Hit back. This is going to be whatever we put right here for the name. So you want the name to make sense. Notes are very important. These things are going to save your behind in the future. As you start adding to your database, you're going to say, well, why did I do that? If you have a note, it's going to really help you. So you want to get in the habit of writing these notes. You might not want to do them all the time, but I'm just going to put this one in here now. So because it's obvious, but this is the color of the car. Yeah, that's obvious, but we're just going to do that for practice. Default calculate. Let's look at that one. The default calculate is what the system is going to put in our text box when we first start it. And you can use value or formula. Formulas are a little advanced, so we're going to skip that, but let's do value. Now if we type in pink, let's see what happens when we type in pink. And I'm going to go back over here, and if I make a new car, look, it filled in pink for us. I can change it, but it sets us the default pink. So if you have something that's, let's say this was the state and almost all your business is in the state of Nevada, maybe you'd put Nevada in there all the time to help people out, and they would change it if it was different, but 99% of the time it's going to be the state of Nevada. So might as well make your life easier for people and fill it in. I cancel that, so it wasn't doing anything. And let's go back in the color thing and look at that. So that's what you use the default calculate for, is to help someone out. Formula. So formula, I'll just show it to you. It picked up the formula, and that just means put pink in there, but I could have changed it, and I'll use a simple formula. That formula, trust me, just puts today's date in there. Uh-oh. Well, it found date. I'm gonna cheat on this. When you make formulas, you have to do this sort of thing. I'm going to take the date and make it into text and put it in there to make it the text box. And that didn't work either because I typed it wrong. See, formulas are very specific in how you type them. So I'm going to correct all this. Say that. It worked, but you can see why you're going to be needing to go through some classes to get the formulas. But now I do a new car, and the color is today's date. That's obviously not a color, but I just want to demonstrate that. So let's go back in here and change it to, let's just take that out and go to none. We're not going to worry about that. Let's go to the next section. Okay, this here is required. This means that this field has to be filled in. You cannot have blanks anywhere in there. Unique is very important, is inside your entire table. You must have unique records in here. If you were recording people's social security number, that would be a good one to set it to unique, because everyone should have a unique social security number. Allow add similar is, this is when people are doing a lot of data entry. If I go back over here and cancel, okay, and I'm looking at this record right here, we have an add similar button. And what that lets us do is click add similar, and we make a new record with those settings in there. So let me go back and show you what happens if I turn off the add similar for the color. So this works a little bit like the default value. So now that I've done that, if I go into this record and say view, and I want to do add similar, every column that I had saying allow to add similar will just fill in and copy the one you have, but the color doesn't. So you might have it so you would like people to be able to copy a record, except maybe the person's name, or in this case the color. So you'd want that always filled in with something new. I'm going to cancel that again, go back in here. As you can see, there's a lot to the text column. Allow find, very important one. The find, you will find, very funny, it's a pun, that when you go into the database, you can search the entire database from every single table for something in the database. So I might want to search for Ford, and you hit Ford, and I found the Ford Mustang. This is very, very important when you have a large database. What you want to know, though, when you do it is you want to definitely uncheck for things that you do not want to search for. Now, color might be a good one to search for, but if you have too many things to search for, you're going to get too many results. So in some cases, you do not want this column to be included in the search. So this is where you uncheck that. Include by views by default. This will catch you, and it throws many people off. So if I turn this one off and save it, my default views, which this is a default view when I first make it, includes the columns. It's just automatically built by the system, and I just said don't use that column in the default. So it disappeared from us. Useful, because sometimes you don't want them to show. When you start getting larger tables and you have views built already, you're going to want to come in here, and whenever you make a new column, you're going to want to turn this off. Right now we can leave it on, but you're going to want to turn it off because it's going to inject whatever you made into your views, and you're more likely going to want to go to your views and edit them when they get complex. So remember this. Display in bold, useful. It just makes that column bold. And I need to save it, and I go back over here and refresh the screen, and see that one's bold. That's all it does. Now, this last one in this section here is display without wrapping. This one's going to help quite a bit. So let's say when we put in the information here, well, we're going to need to display without wrapping. But we have wrapping set now. So let's say I edit this car, and instead of putting make here, I go, this is a Ford car that I am typing into the, oh, that's as far as I can go. Let's see what it does. It pushed this all the way out here. I'm going to edit again, and we'll do each of these. Yeah, this is ridiculous, but I'm cheating. And we had enough room to fit everything in there. Well, I'm going to show you the wrapping in a second a little bit better. So width is how much we can type in the text. For a text box, all it means is whatever you type in. It does not have to be text. We can put numbers, characters. Text is just, if it's on the keyboard, you can type it. So I'm gonna increase this. 40's a good basic thing. If you want to get a name, 40 works and stuff. But sometimes you need more characters. As you saw when I was typing here, that's all I could do, and that's 40 characters including spaces. So I'm gonna make it say 400, which is ridiculous, but you can do. And save that. Now let's look what happens. I'm going to refresh my screen. Looks the same, but I'm going to edit it, and now I can put a lot more in here. This is a Ford car that I'm typing into the type, please. Refresh this. What did I do wrong? Oh, I'm typing the width of the color is 400. See, color into the database to show you what happens if wrapping is on or off. This is something urgent to know. There we go. So when I did this, and since I used a lot more space, all of a sudden my columns will go to a certain size and then try to wrap the text. And that's good in some cases, but sometimes you need them all in the same line, or else they look really bad. Let's say you put in someone's street address and it wraps it on you. Not good. So the way to fix that, of course, is I'm going to go in and edit the make. Let's go to the make real quick because it's there. And we're going to say display without wrapping. And when I look in the view, see, it forces it not to wrap, which then makes this column very wide and it scrunches in the other ones. That's how it works. Let's go back to our color. Now, let's say we picked 400 and we really didn't want 400, so we wanted 40. Let's do that. We're going to put it back in. Oh, can't do it. We get an error. So shrinking from something that's too big to make it smaller is hard to do. Making it bigger is easy, making it smaller. So don't go in and just make all your column widths really long. Keep them reasonable. I leave them to 40 until I find out there's a problem, or if I know that I need it bigger. Email addresses need bigger columns. Names, 40 works good. It just depends on what you're doing. So I can't actually decrease this one. I need to leave it at a large number for now. So now let's get down to what type of text options. In this case, it's a type in. We can type whatever we want. We have some other ones that are very important, such as drop down. Now, when I pick drop down, I have my choices, and my choices are what I've put in previously. But I might not want those to be choices. So I'm going to color, and I want red, green, blue. Every choice is on a separate line. So if I put pink, yellow on one line, it'll put that on one line as a choice. I'm going to save this. Now when I go and edit my record with the incredibly long color, and look at the color is now a drop down. See, and I can pick none or one of the colors. It also shows me the previous entry that was there before I made the drop down. So if you change a field from drop down, it's not automatically going to correct them. It's going to leave what was there before, and now we can fix it. Remember, all it is filling in the color with another text value. It's still a text value, but we can no longer type in it. We can only put what we want in it. This is really, really important. It's one of the best things you can do with the text field, is put in choices for people, and they have to use these choices. It does what's called normalizing your database. You're making everybody use the same thing. It's vitally important, because if you don't, people are going to put things in there like crazy. If you just let them type it in, they're going to put red, and they're going to be red yellow, like pink yellow. They're going to put, reddish brown, and you'll never be able to just find red vehicles. So keep that in mind, because one thing you can do is allow users to create new choices like that. This is something you almost never want to do. Because watch what's going to happen if I save that. Now my users are suddenly, I'm going to refresh my screen. I'm going to edit my color again. There we go. Now I can go in here, red, green, blue, and stuff, but I can add a new choice. And then my new choice can be sort of brown or red. Okay. It's sort of brown or red. If you want to get your data out of your database and find all the red cars, you're going to have a hard time doing that, because someone put in sort of brown or red. Or you're going to get this sort of thing. Let's make a new choice, and they're going to type red. Okay. And you'll say, hey, that's not going to happen. And now I'm going to go down to this one here, because I added new choices. Look what happens. Now I have sort of brown and red, along with all the other colors, including pink, yellow, that I made a mistake on. Not good. This isn't good at all. So I have not yet found a reason why users should be allowed to add choices. It has always been a mistake to allow the users to add choices. You're just going to get choices that are misspelled, and you're going to get bizarre things, guaranteed. So I highly recommend, unless you really know what you're doing and you really need that to be there, or possibly you're the absolute only person that uses the database, do not add this. Take it off. Sort choices alphabetically. Just simply sorts them when they show them. You could type them in any order you want to, and the drop down will be alphabetical. So if you look here, I have red, green, blue. Blue should be on top and stuff. They're going to stay in the same order here, but when I go back into the database, just refresh this one and look down, now they're in alphabetical order. If I look at my choices in here, they're still in the random order I typed them in. So you can actually use this or not, but what's nice is if you don't use it, you can put these in whatever order you want them. So maybe blue is the most columns, so I would take that out of there and put it up here. Take the blank out, fix the yellow. This is how we fix things. And remove these. Oops. And let me show you this one thing. If I remove primer green, that was a color I used. So what's going to happen when I go over to my database? I save this. Let's go over to my database. But I had this set to primer green. Let's refresh. Is it going to change my primer green? Not at all. Primer green's there. Changing your record picker will not change previous entries. What it means is when I go to the primer green one and only the primer green one, it's going to be one of the choices until I pick something different. Now when I go into it, it is no longer one of the choices. Notice that read, because I spelled it wrong, is not one of the choices. But it's this one here. So if I was going in this one here and look, read is a choice because it was the entry for this record before I changed it. I changed it to blue. So if you if you did have your choices in here and you made a mistake and you spelled blue and nobody told you about this for a couple days and you come in and correct it, you have to go back and correct every record that was typed BLU and correct it to BLUE. And that is a manual process. There are ways to make it easier for you, so don't get too scared, but the idea is to get these right when you put them in. And that is exactly why you want to keep other people from doing it. So similar to the choices is you could pick radio buttons. They're still choices, but you have radio buttons. And the way that looks is when we edit the screen, poof, you can pick them from the list without the drop down. This works great if you have like a yes, no, maybe, but after you get about more than 3 items in there, it gets obnoxious. It really gets long. The other way you can use a text box is you can make it go to check boxes. Like here. And when you do that, it is similar to radio buttons, but you can select more than one. And this is a very powerful thing you can do. I did that, and now I'm going to go back to my car and edit it. And now I can pick more than one. It could be a red and green and yellow, because I've seen a lot of Impalas on the road that are painted red, green, and yellow. So I've added every color in there. And I save it. Take a look. Now this is the important thing. Suddenly our field contains red, comma, green, comma, yellow. The text is all of those together. So this causes you to have to make your reports and stuff later down the road differently. Because if you say, I want to find everything that's the color equals to red, it will not find this one because this is not equal to red. The text in here is red, green, yellow. So you have to, when you make reports, you'd have to make a report that says, I want to find everything that contains red, which is slightly different, and I will certainly show that to you when we get to that point. But just remember, if we use the entry for, I'll show you once it comes up. If we use check boxes, it changes how we use this text box later down the road. So my favorite is drop down. Drop down kind of fits everything and people get used to it really quick. Final thing is colorize values. So this here we have when it contains. This is kind of neat. We could pick, let's go down our list. We could say, and we have to type it the same way, blue. We're going to pick the color blue. When we make it red, we're going to pick the color red. Contains green. We pick the color green. Okay, you get the idea. That's enough of them. And we'll save. Now we go over here. Refresh. Look, the contains work because it contained red. Also has green and yellow. But we did one for green. Uh-oh, why didn't it turn green? This is the problem with having multiple colors. One of the things it did is when you use the coloration formula down here in the bottom, it's going to find the first one. Red was the first one, so it becomes red. So it goes down this list finding colors until it finds in your text field that contains the first one, and then it's done. It doesn't do any more. So it finds the first entry, makes it red. But that's how it works. So this is kind of neat. You can do it. It's a little time consuming to enter them in, but it's well worth it, especially if you don't have dozens of them. This would not work if you allow users to create choices, because as I explained, they would change it. It would mess up all your hard programming. That's why we leave this off. So anything that allows users to do things is problematic. You want to be careful with it. So now we know how to do a text box, and there was a lot to it. I know there is, but the text box is your most common box you use, and you just put text in there. So, and it also the one that gives you the most flexibility. So I'm saving that, and we're looking at that, and that is it for the text box.